Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let us continue with our tafsir of Surah An-Nisaa bihawlillahi wa quwwatih. We are on ayah number 94. قال الله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ضربتم في سبيل الله فتبينوا ولا تقولوا لمن ألقى إليكم السلام لست مؤمنا تبتغون عرض الحياة الدنيا فعند الله مغانم كثيرة كذلك كنتم من قبل فمن الله عليكم فتبينوا إن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. Okay, so in this ayah he begins with the famous call. We have spoken about this before. إذا ضربتم, ضربة means to strike something. However, it also refers to traveling out, because when you travel out, you are striking the land as you walk out, or as your animal walks out. You are striking the land with your foot. Here, it means traveling out, fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah. That refers to fighting. So when you travel out, fighting in the way of Allah, in a military expedition. فَتَبَيَّنُوا, the fa comes as part of the jawab al-shart, إِذَا. Tabayyanu meaning seek the bayan, clarification. Seek to clarify the matter and do not be hasty. In some other qira'at it is fatathabbatu, which means to seek confirmation. So seeking clarification or confirmation, it's pretty much the same thing. You are making sure of the matter and not acting hastily. He says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا, do not say, لِمَنْ أَلْقَى, to the one who throws ilaykum, to you, as-salam, the salam. That basically means the one who says the salam to you. So assalamu alaykum to you. Do not say to such a person, you are not a mu'min. Because of course the salam greeting is the greeting of the mu'min. So if somebody gives you the salam, you are not to automatically now tell them, no, you are not a mu'min. Rather, this is a sign that he is a mu'min, unless there is evidence otherwise. تَبْتَغُونَ عَرَضَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, seeking the perishable goods of this world. So what does this all mean? You're traveling out, marching in the way of Allah, expecting to meet the enemy. You meet somebody who says the salam to you. This is an indication that such a person is a mu'min. And then you say, oh no, he's not really a mu'min, he's just saying this to protect himself. And you kill him, taking his goods that are with him. Allah Jalla wa Ala says this is impermissible. He says, فَعِنْدَ اللَّهِ مَغَانِمُ كَثِيرًا. Allah has much war booty. In other words, you do not need to commit the haram to gain the material wealth. The halal avenue for material wealth is plentiful for you. There is a narration in the Musnad of Ahmad where Ibn Abbas narrates that a man from Banu Sulaym was tending a flock of sheep, and he passed by some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and said salam to them. Some of these companions said that he's only saying salam to protect himself, and they attacked him and took his wealth. To which Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed this ayah. Allah says, كَذَلِكَ كُنْتُم مِّن قَبْلُ فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. Just like this, you yourselves were beforehand, and Allah bestowed His minna to you, meaning His favors. Meaning to say, beforehand, you were also in fear of the enemies, and you were concealing your Islam, lest you should be executed by the enemies. But then Allah conferred His favor upon you, and made you victorious in the land through battlefield, and you no longer needed to hide or conceal your Islam. And He says this because amongst the enemies that the Muslimun are going to be fighting when they travel out in a military expedition, there will be some people who have embraced Islam living amongst the kuffar, but they are concealing their Islam, just like the Sahaba were during the Makkah period of the Seerah. And Allah Jalla wa Ala says, فَتَبَيَّنُوا, He repeats the order. Take the bayan, or seek the bayan, seek clarification. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. Allah is all aware of what you do. This is a threat, because Allah Jalla wa Ala is aware. If you contravene his orders. So reflecting on this ayah, we find, as we did before, that Iman is the most prestigious description of any human being. And notice the fact that Allah addresses the mu'mineen and directs his speech to the mu'mineen. That in and of itself is an honor to the mu'mineen. Imagine a king of a land directing his speech to you. Surely you would find that to be an honor. The main lesson to pick up is to always clarify and confirm matters before you make a decision, because this is from the Sunnah and this is the order of Allah Jalla wa Ala. And then besides, being hasty is from shaitan, as the Prophet told us. Al-ajla min ash-shaytan. Being hasty is from shaitan. So you need to know that you always have more time than you initially think you do. So there's no need to be hasty. We also pick up an important lesson that we judge people in accordance with what is apparent from them, unless we have evidence otherwise. Somebody says the salam to you, you take that person to be a Muslim, unless you have evidence otherwise. We also appreciate from this ayah the dangers of being greedy for the worldly wealth, and that it can lead you to taking another person's life without due right, just as this ayah mentions. So the Muslims would think that this person giving the salam is not really a Muslim, so let's kill him and take his wealth because he's actually a harbi. And what drives them to do this is that they want to justify taking his wealth. So understand that these types of things are completely haram. We also learn a vital lesson from this ayah, to have empathy with others. Just like Allah Jalla wa Ala says that there are some Muslims living amongst the kuffar who are hiding their faith, who fear for themselves. You were also like this, O companions. So have empathy. Empathy is a natural and praiseworthy human trait, and it is simply emphasized here in the Sharia. Just like all the other natural good human traits are emphasized in the text of the Sharia. So, for example, if you see a Muslim who is off the deen and is practicing a misguided lifestyle, then understand that it is entirely possible that you too could have been in this misguided lifestyle if you were perhaps surrounded by misguided people or in a misguided environment. So always have this level of empathy, and when you go in to advise, you go in softly with empathy as opposed to going in harshly, being judgmental and dogmatic. And we also take the name of Allah is Khabir. Khabir means one who knows about the inner and secret matters. And like we said before, he ends off with this name and description as a threat to all those who would disobey his order. Ayah number 95. لا يستوي القاعدون من المؤمنين غير أولي الضرر والمجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم فضل الله المجاهدين بأموالهم وأنفسهم على القاعدين درجة وكلا وعد الله الحسنى وفضل الله المجاهدين على القاعدين أجرا عظيما. He says, not equal are those who sit. Sit meaning they sit behind or remain behind from marching out to battle. So they are not equal to those who do march out for battle. Except he gives an exception, غَيْرُ أُولِي الضَّرَرِ, except the people of harm, meaning to say those who are suffering a harm or some handicap which prevents them from going out to battle, such as being blind or maybe being bedridden and so on. Notice he also says بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ, with their wealth and their life, because both need to be spent and exerted in the way of Allah. As for your life, that is the physical fighting, and as for the wealth, then you cannot have a military expedition without spending. And even governments in this day and age have a defense ministry or a Department of Defense, which is responsible for military spending, because you cannot have an army without expenditure. Just like you cannot have an army without physical exertion from the soldiers. He says that he has promised goodness to both, because both parties, whether you stay behind or whether you go out in the fight, they are both believers, and Allah has promised goodness to all believers, no matter what level of their righteousness is. However, he goes on to say that he has preferred the fighters over those who remain behind without an excuse by a great reward. The word ajran is mansub bil fatha because they say it is a maf'ulun mutlaq, which is there to emphasize the verb. The verb in this case being faddala, to prefer. As for aziman, it is mansub bil fatha also because it is a description of the ajr. So ajran aziman. So reflecting on this ayah, and ayah 96 follows on, darajatin minhu wa maghfiratan wa rahmatan wa kana Allahu ghafuran rahiman, by higher degrees from him, meaning from Allah, and forgiveness and mercy, and Allah was always the Ghafoor, forgiving, and the Rahim, the merciful. Darajatin is mansub with a kasra because it is a jam'u mu'annath salim, and it is a badal of ajran, that's why it is mansub. It's the same thing with maghfiratan and rahmah, that Allah has preferred the fighters by a great reward and by high grades in Jannah and by forgiveness and by much mercy. So reflecting on these two ayatain, we find that the believers are not equal. Rather, they are preferred because of their actions. So whether it be fighting in the way of Allah or any other righteous action, this is what makes you superior to other people. It is your taqwa. We find from this ayah the superiority of marching out to fight in the way of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and that this increases you in grades in Jannah and in forgiveness and in the mercy of Allah Jalla wa Ala. You enjoy the lion's share of all of this goodness. We also take that Allah Jalla wa Ala is always balanced, because when He tells us that the fighters are superior to the non-fighters, one might think from this mistakenly that there is absolutely no good in those Muslimin who stay behind without an excuse, and one may therefore mistreat such people. So Allah Jalla wa Ala nips this misunderstanding in the bud and immediately tells us that goodness is promised to all types of mu'mineen, even those who fall short in their ibadah. We find that those people who have a genuine excuse to stay behind, such as if they're handicapped or if they're ill, then such people, it depends. If their intention is that they would march out to fight, if they had the ability to do so, then they are counted as actually marching out to fight, because in this case now they are sincere to Allah Jalla wa Ala. And this ayah was revealed when the Prophet was reciting this ayah and Zayd ibn Thabit was writing it down, and Abdullah ibn Maktoum, who was blind, was listening to this, and he said, if I had the ability I would surely go out to fight. And so Allah Jalla wa Ala sent down the part of the ayah غَيْرُ أُولِي الضَّرَرِ, except those who have an injury or a handicap. So this means that Ibn Maktoum is not counted as those who are the inferior types. And you can also have other excuse as well. For example, Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us that it is not right and proper that the whole of the Muslim community should go out to fight. Some should stay back to learn about the deen. So as for those who are staying back to learn about the deen, then if their intention is that they would go out to fight, if they were called to go out to fight, then they are also counted as the superior fighters, even though they have not physically marched out. But anyone who remains back due to a valid Shari'i excuse, and his intention is that he would go out to fight if the circumstances present themselves or the opportunity presents itself, then he is counted as being amongst the fighters and not amongst those who are inferior. We also find that Jannah has many grades, and we have more evidence from the narrations which talk about 100 grades in Jannah reserved solely for the Mujahideen. The distance between two consecutive grades is like the distance between the heavens and the earth. We also find that Allah Jalla wa Ala has mercy on people, and He has rahmah. Rahmah meaning kullu khair wa ni'mah, all types of blessing. And we also find the two names of Allah, Ghafoor and Rahim, along with their attributes fitting to Allah Jalla wa Ala, of course. هذا والله أعلم.